Thank you very much, everyone. If our speakers would like to come down for the Q&A, and we'll be taking questions from the audience, or if you want to put them on Slido. I know we've had a few have come through already. Okay, so does anyone have a question? Yeah, someone. Sorry, I can't see the audience very well because of the lights. So you have to wave a lot.
Hi,
Thank you.
Thank you. I had a question for Simon. That piece that's in the press recently, about the girl with the pearl earring and the experience of seeing that art. And you mentioned that the experience of looking at real art is different from kind of AI-generated art. Is it about the real art, or is it about the physical experience? I haven't read the study in detail, the physical experience of standing there and experiencing it kind of tangibly.
So the Moritz House experiment was looking at the girl with the pearl earring in the gallery at the physical artwork, and looking at a copy of the girl with the pearl earring in the gallery somewhere else.
Okay.
So it
but also
was
physically.
genuinely the difference between, it was a really well-controlled experiment. So it was generally the difference between the actual object and a very high-quality facsimile of the object.
Brilliant, thank you, that's really helpful.
There's a question up at the back, on the row, yeah.
Hi, thank you very much. We've heard that at manifesto, we began to use synthetic human for user research. While I also heard Professor Simon said we need to preserve this sense of authenticity. So I think it's a really interesting conversation going on the stage, where the influence of AI is kind of shaping the way user researchers are doing research. And I know in Imperial College London, some researchers start to explore using synthetic agent to do qualitative interview, to train students to work on those qualitative research. And I think it's an interesting trend in there. So I want to hear more about the conflict between using AI to represent authentic human, and what could be the risk, and how do you manage that?
That is such a fascinating question, and definitely something that I've been grappling with. I love user research as part of my job. I love humans and curiosity in people. But out of intrigue, kind of started to dabble into this world of actually, well, how can you represent, users digitally as well? And I think for me, it was the realization that just adds to the wealth of kind of authenticity with real humans, and you should never use it only as kind of the AI versions of people. For me, one of the biggest was, I think, a question that came up in the first session this morning around how to get representation from people that are tired or won't engage with research. And it is a route to kind of getting into that space. So I think we're still in this dance of real life, AI, and all of this. So I don't think anyone's quite got the answer to it, but it's something that I don't think will ever replace the authenticity and the value in authenticity. It just gets you faster, and it's more a tool to use day to day, rather than kind of big research projects. This is kind of the way that I'm seeing, but the thinking is really evolving as time goes on.
So we've got a question from online, and this one is for, I think, for Simon, and it says, concerning threats in the study about engagement, do people know they're looking at an original reproduction? And I think some of this was kind of covered in your first answer, but does the knowledge really make a difference? And could ignorance of not knowing that we're seeing a fake make a real difference online?
So, to a certain extent, the expert in the room on this is Yi, who I can now see is up there, because that was one of the things that that she found when she was looking at the immersive exhibition spaces. So you go to the Van Gogh exhibition or the Monet exhibition, and what they have is you have that immersive experience in the room, but they also have copies of the artworks before you go into that. And people really think they're tacky and horrible, and they don't like them. And then you get a poster at the other end which has got, you know, our virtual exhibition experience plastered all over the artwork, and people sort of think of that as being quite disrespectful to the art itself, you know. But the experience in the space, that creative space, these are almost new artistic expressions of you know, riffing off of the artworks that are there already. And so I think that, you know, that sort of editorializing is maybe more engaging than just a copy of the artwork. So I think that they do have a purpose and they do have a popularity. But yes, if you're just saying, come look at our posters of these artworks, it's never going to be the same as come look at the actual artworks.
Thanks. Are there any more questions? Yep. Russell? Yeah, microphone's coming. Oh, thanks.
Thank you. I know we're kind of all banding on Simon or maybe Jihi here at the minute, but my sort of question around the experiences is, I guess it's a feeling, and I want to know what you think about this feeling, that maybe we, rather than competing, could actually work together. So, you know, you have the experience, and then you have the actual art, and it adds that layer of depth. Like, for example, in the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam, they use the basement there to tell the story of his life. And they go around with like the self-portraits, and they use the storytelling with the experience, and then adding the projections onto that. That's just another layer to that depth. And I guess it's digital storytelling with the experience. And I just think that could be something really beautiful rather than harmful.
Yeah, so for the startup, I'm not saying that I think these things are necessarily harmful. I think that to go back to the AI question a little bit, I think that you probably already understand that the thing we're struggling with here is understanding what the job to be done is, rather than assuming that the tool is the thing that tells you what the job to be done is. You know, it's that old, you know, adage. You know, people don't want a drill; they want a 6mm hole in their wall. You know, so reminding yourself what the job to be done is, and then looking for the appropriate tools to enable that job to be achieved in a way that is meaningful to your audiences and your communities is where I'm trying to encourage people to start from. And then when that kicks in strategically, especially when you're thinking about innovation and strategic investment, go back even a further step to what are your values and how are those values being communicated and shared and communicated back to you as an organisation in relationship to your communities. And letting those things drive your strategy, which then drives your choices as to what the jobs to be done are, which then drives your tools, rather than what we've seen. You know, I mean, I've seen it like, you know, genuinely hundreds of times, where you wander into a space and they've got a cool technology, but they haven't thought about the job to be done. And the storytelling aspect can be amazing. I was in a film and TV museum in Prague a couple of months ago, and they'd actually brought in a VR storyteller who basically used VR as a new form of filmmaking, I would say, or a version of filmmaking to tell their story of that, you know, their personal story of their battle with depression. And, you know, it was one of the best things I've ever experienced in the museum, that you could walk around in about 15 minutes and say, yes, I've seen everything. It turned that experience into something that I'll remember for years. So there are purposes for it. There was a really good, I can't remember the name of the artist, but there was that really good use of VR at I think it was the Tate, where they recreated the artist's workroom, so you could see the art in the context of the room in which their studio space. So there's lots of really good things you can do, but you need to step back to why and for whom and how will that add value and make a difference to those communities and make them sort of feel connected. So that's a very long answer. I should let other people speak.
Right. I think we've got time for one more question, and if you've got anything, I think that could kind of to some of the other members of the panel, that would be fantastic. Yes, lady in green.
Hi, this is for Jennifer. I think I'm quite interested in what you were talking about with having a digital-only audience, and I think I just sort of wondered how you dealt with proving the value of those interactions. I think I come from a local authority museum where the most important metric is getting people through the door, and I suppose I just wondered how you prove, I suppose, putting more content online, you're going to inevitably only reach some people digitally. And I think, how do you prove the value of those interactions when people want people through the door, basically? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of being digital only, so the product that we have is our website and people coming to the website. In terms of valuing those interactions and putting some kind of monetary value on them, I can't say that much in terms of detail now, but we have just done an exercise with DCMS to look at the contingent value of Art UK, which attempts to kind of look like the shadow market for something that is completely digital and put some kind of monetary value on that. There are also, I guess, other interactions that we have with people. So even though we are a purely digital organisation, we do have things like the community engagement, and through Tagger we do have somebody who actually goes out into the community and showcases Tagger to different community groups and shows them how they can tag artwork. So you get the value from seeing people interact with the artwork there, and she's had some great experiences of like running intergenerational workshops with local artwork within the Stoke area, and just seeing and hearing stories of one generation talking to another generation. So I guess that we have different values across the organisation, even though we are purely digital.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, everyone. And the next session will be starting at 3, and it's now time for a break. But if you have any questions, I think our panel will be sort of around briefly for sort of at least definitely during the next break. Thank you very much.